AKA Kaba, Ajina Puya. Zimbabwe champion, AKA Kaba, Ajina Punya, Niesienra, Niesiende, Ebekwaku Sisen, Ewo Asempa, 94.7, Kaba, Kasa.
Good afternoon, Accra. Good afternoon, the nation's capital. And good afternoon to you, wherever you are, however you are tuning. Yamahamu Akwaba Dibai Kusi Senso, Wasampa 94.7 with yours truly, Kojo Kaba. It's a brand new man. The Lord has been good indeed. His mercies endured forever. Shawan can't say that journey will be easy. But what he told us, that he will be with us every step of the way. Obra kwantu no nyankopon anka kire se be ya hogono so esanse sa kwantiano eso fa edimpa nanso so we anamontuo mu ene ye kone ye banyina asafu yehowa one ye wo ho ene ye June 1 ekusi se na wienso atena se bi mmidi ni kwadwo asare ba for a champion Kaba Productions by Dominic Isiebo Nana Chumber Manana Kwada Direnchi DJ Yayo Bla Alec Social media production assistant so by Ingo Juma and I am Hamu Akwaba Diabe Kusi Senso from now till 6:30. It's our pleasure to come your way with the best of information. Get you educated. I won't come across Ghana. Near S3 Umubenya Biasre. No see about Pemwana Yakramo. Unyamidi Asha Bosumi for me. Empire Bonnie said, let us say, Afri 2017. Abusumin Sian Yeremi, Akabusumin Siana Fina Coneria. Near 1 year, Shasipano. 1 year in Bibiano Yepa. Ebenezer, Babia, Asafu Yehoa, or the Abedroni.
You're welcome back. You're watching Editors Forum, and I'm here with two guests. Before I talk to them, some of our viewers have been commenting on a picture I put up on Facebook. Haluku Senu Zakaria says, interesting discussion. Mama Jifa Bampu says, hello guys, and Jifa Bampu used to be on this show with me. This is Say Charles Jesus Odonko. He says, Bro Malik, I'm devastated at the cruel demise of Kaba. The world is indeed not our home. That's from Say Charles Jesus Kaba. I'm saying Kaba or Donko. If you're still watching us, send us some more comments on this. I'll read them. Thank you. To Haliku, Jifa, and Charles. Okay, so Toma, let me start with you. We just woke up one morning, we heard that the military in Zimbabwe have intervened and they've taken control of the state. But this is not a classic coup.
Yeah.
What's your reading of what has happened in Zimbabwe, especially as it relates to business, because that's your strength area?
Well, I think at last the military has decided that Mugabe is bad for business. in Zimbabwe.
Oh, is that what they have decided?
I think that's what.
But they are allowing the man. They are sitting with him and drinking tea.
Exactly.
And they are taking him to. He's allowed to go out and attend events.
No, you can't.
So this is not a coup.
A coup. It's not a coup, but it's going to end eventually. I believe it will end in his living. What they are trying.
That would have come anyway.
They are trying to cut his immediate power base from under him. They isolate him. Then they
Is
can
that what they want to do? When they are sitting and drinking with him, and they're allowing him to go out and do attend functions,
but
because we are expecting that he will address the people, maybe the rally, or he will address the nation. We are hoping that will happen. If that happens, we will pick it.
But anything other than that, it becomes a coup. And you and I know that coups have been outlawed in the world. You don't do coups anymore.
But so
This is as far as
is this a coup or is not?
It's not a coup. It's just pressure from a certain segment of the society to get him out.
Who are all
to
his
get
friends,
him to
by
leave.
the way?
Sorry?
Who are his friends, by the way?
Who have been his friends?
You think he's falling out with them?
If he wasn't falling out with that, I don't think they'll be doing what they are doing right now.
Oh, they are doing this because they don't want Grace Mugabe to rather be the one who will come and be calling the shots.
Well, Malik, I think what happened, we can, infer from the fact that the First Lady, Grace Mugabe, she was basically calling a lot of shots in, and then the last straw to bring the camels back.
Uncle Bob is 93, for God's sake. 93 years.
Yeah, so Malik, I was coming to that. And you see, the party wanted to get rid of Grace because she was becoming too powerful. Okay. And for me, there are people who say that everything was the conspiracy theorists who say that the party knew about all these happenings and they kind of found a way of bringing the military and all. Those are conspiracies. But you get a sense that Grace Mugabe was becoming too powerful and they needed to get a way of dealing with Grace Mugabe. And having to sack the vice president, Mr. What's the name? Nangawa. And I think that it was what actually tipped the scales over. And the military had to step in. And mind you, this is not a coup. This is not a coup because if it were to be a coup, they would not be negotiating with Mr. Mugabe to step down. Because coup d'etat, they overthrow you, and next thing you know, you are seeking exile. We are talking about a 93-year-old. Yeah. What would it take to overthrow a 93-year-old? But they realize that, look, having a coup d'etat is not the solution to our problems. If we need to deal with Mr. Mugabe, let's sit down with him and get him to resign. And I think that for me, it's a feather in our cap as Africa, because we've over the years see people overthrow government and the whole thing becomes bloody, protests here and there. But watch the protests in Zimbabwe. People have marched peacefully and the military have stated their case that, look, this is not a coup d'etat, and we just stepped in because we wanted to make sure certain people are out of government. Grace Mugabe and the G40s, and so far they've been able to get rid of them. And I get the sense that they have reinstated the vice president as a leader of the ZANU-PF, and they've kicked out Mr. Mugabe. So it's a problem.
Yeah, I just read that on the BBC.
Yeah, so it's a problem they are trying to deal with, and they don't want a solution where it becomes bloody, because nobody wins in a bloody situation. Yeah. So I think that for me, it's better than the sort of uprising we had in the north, where things became chaotic because they thought they were fed up with a particular leader, and people had to fight their way out of power or fight to hold power. So I think that the Zimbabweans have really done Africa proud. And I speak to friends in Zimbabwe, and they will tell you that Mr. Mugabe himself would want to hold on to power till his term expires in somewhere August. But ZANU-PF also say that, of course, you've outstayed your welcome. And looking at the happenings of the past 2 or 3 weeks where you had to sack your vice president, we can see that you made your stay on.
Do you think he will resign?
Well, I spoke to a friend again in Zimbabwe, and she was telling me that under certain circumstances, Mr. Mugabe can dissolve parliament. I don't know how he can't do it though, but if he doesn't resign, then the parliament would have to impeach him. So I'm looking at a situation whereby, okay, this is Mr. Mugabe.
Because according to the BBC, he's been given up to 10 a.m. Monday to resign. They've already sacked him as a leader of the ZANU-PF. They've given him up to 10 Monday to resign as president.
Mugabe will play a zero-sum game. I don't think he's going to willingly resign. Mugabe, as far as he has nothing left. He's 93. He doesn't care anymore. He has nothing left to lose. All right. What you have
but
here
he
is
has a legacy to protect, doesn't he?
What, the legacy of crashing the Zimbabwean economy?
You see, I think that a lot of what we read about Zimbabwe is coming from people who do not like Mr. Mugabe. So there are a lot of misinformation.
Is Zimbabwe as bad as we hear from the Western media?
Yes, when you speak to them,
just a little bit worse.
No, they are not as bad. In terms of even poverty level, they are better off than a lot of countries with proper democracy.
I've heard that Zimbabweans are able to send their children, and the average Zimbabwean is able to send their children to schools where they pay hefty sums.
Yeah.
And Harare is clean, it's neat.
But compare that against
well
the potential the country had.
Well,
Zimbabwe should be far and away the standout country in Africa by a country mile.
And that's what we are told.
Mugabe
once
had
again.
done the right thing.
That's what we are told. And you see, we are still waiting for those who told us that inflation in Zimbabwe was, is it 231 billion %? I mean, how does that survive? I mean, how can a country survive?
I mean, even the mass issue that was propaganda. I mean,
and you see, so there was so much misinformation. I mean, when it comes to Zimbabwe. So you look at the Zimbabweans. For me, I think that they've done well, like I said. And if Mr. Mugabe should play according to what the rules they've set before him and resigns, maybe there'll be fresh elections, and who knows. But let's not forget that it is still ZANU-PF you're talking about, the party of Mr. Mugabe. So it's not a whole
But they have now sacked him. They've sacked his wife and some other members.
But the important is the army cannot step back. You see, the army has committed itself. Think about it. If you were in Mugabe's shoes and you survived this whole issue as the leader of the party, as the president, what do you think you're going to do to the soldiers who instigated this in the first place, the generals who instigated in the first place? The army cannot back down. There's just no way, because they will end up at best in jail for treason, or at worst executed for treason.
So you think that the army would dig their heels in?
They have to.
But you just said that he will play a zero-sum game.
Exactly.
He will not go willingly.
Yes.
But they are pushing him. Will he?
I don't think he will. But this is pure speculation. I don't know enough of Mugabe. But when I see things he has done in the past, Mugabe is a stubborn man. Mugabe, you see, you must understand where he's coming from. Even the guys, the generals who are pushing him now. Let's be honest. When Mugabe was fighting for Zimbabwe's independence back in the 70s, some of those generals were just being born, probably were just being born or were just in primary school or something. Mugabe feels that he's done more for his country than most of the people around him who are now trying to tell him what to do. And he resents it.
But he's 93.
Yeah, you see,
there is a limit to what he can do.
That's the problem. You see, at his age, let's be honest, senility, and this is not Western propaganda, is a medical fact. By the time of 93, senility will have been setting in.
But his faculties are still intact.
That's what you, is that, I mean, based on whose assessment?
But if he doesn't jump, he'll be pushed. And
will he jump?
Well, if he doesn't jump,
he won't jump.
Will he jump?
I think he'll be pushed.
Maybe he'll be pushed.
That's what I'm saying. I believe he'll be pushed.
So the consensus here is that he will not jump. So he will be pushed.
Well, he will not jump.
Let's talk about, government's fight against corruption. Tuesday, before the finance minister presented the budget in Parliament passed the Special Prosecutors Bill, Office of Special Prosecutors Bill, now allowing an office to be set up where an individual whom the president said will be truly independent and will not have the restrictions and restraints that have made the Attorney General's department incapable of doing its job of prosecuting corrupt public office holders. the office of special prosecutor will be set up and the person appointed to this office can now do that. Do you foresee that at last this is it?
Malik, you know, Tuesday I was keenly monitoring proceedings from Parliament, and I wasn't surprised they were able to pass it, I mean, late into the night. And for me, I look at the Special Prosecutor's Bill and I ask myself, what difference would it make?
The person will now be independent of the executive.
I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Let's not kid ourselves.
What, like
we are talking about an institution which will be financed. Who is going to finance it? Who is going to?
The state.
Who's going to appoint the special prosecutor?
The president.
You see, look.
The president appoints
who's in the position to remove the special prosecutor?
Who appointed the chairperson of the Electoral Commission?
No, but you see, no, Malik.
Who appointed the chairperson of the Electoral Commission? Is the chairperson of the EC independent?
No.
Who appoints the Charge Commissioner?
Malik,
exactly. Is the Charge Commissioner independent?
So how will this be different?
Absolutely. So even if the president appoints the justices of the superior courts, are the justices independent of the executive?
You see,
they are. To the extent that even though the president appoints the justices of the superior courts, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission or the chairman of the Electoral Commission, the Charge boss, and these individuals and institutions are believed to be independent, the special prosecutor can be independent.
But in practice, how independent have they proved to be?
But the chairperson or the chairman of the Electoral Commission has consistently been independent, even though they are appointed by presidents.
Malik, you know, let me land on the point I was making.
That's fact.
So are you?
Mama appointed the Electoral Commission chairperson, Charlotte Osei. Charlotte Osei declared the elections and declared the results in favor of Nana Akufo-Addo, who is president.
No, you see, the structure of the Electoral Commission is a bit different. First of all, there are very strict rules and regulations guiding the activities. And two, she's chairman of a commission. She's one person in a commission. So she cannot, there is not a concentration of power. A lot will depend on how much power is concentrated in the position of the special prosecutor.
High court judges, Court of Appeal judges, Supreme Court judges are all appointed by the president.
Let me use the same argument against the point you're making. So are you saying that because the special prosecutor is going to be independent of the executive, it makes the other institutions supposed to fight corruption, it makes their work?
I am actually saying that your suggestion that because the person is appointed by the president, the person cannot be expected to be independent. It's not.
I'm just saying
there will be bias.
Let's look at the ways of dealing with corruption. Let's look at it holistically. We have so many institutions and agencies supposed to punish people who have been found to be corrupt. And how is the work of the special prosecutor going to be any different? And look, we are talking about IOCO, we are talking about CID, we are talking about so many other institutions. Why can't we empower these institutions to deal with corrupt people? Look, and
they haven't done it, so that is why the government is looking for another vehicle.
Why are we still going to
why will it be
pay
different?
them?
How will it be different?
Should we pay them? You see,
IOCO is supposed to be independent. The Ghana Police Force is not supposed to be, it's not political.
No, well, but the Ghana Police Service, the government would say, its core duty is not to fight corruption.
See, Malik, this is more of delivering on a campaign promise than having to deal with a real problem. For me, that's what I think.
If this is spectacular cynicism.
Oh, no, but that's what I think. Look, if somebody has stolen...
sadly, Thomas shares it.
No, you see, if somebody has stolen the country's money, we don't need any special prosecutor to prove that this person stole our money.
Yeah.
We have been dealing with people... we jailed this man, the former sports minister in 2000. Malam Issa. Did we need a special prosecutor to jail him for corruption? No, we didn't. So I think that we are fond of creating so many institutions, so many bureaucracies and all. So what if you have another government come in and they also say, okay, I also want another sort of office to deal with corruption. Then we duplicate effort here and there and we waste money in the process. Look, IOCO per their mandate can't deal with a lot of these things, and AG is there, and the AG can take it out from wherever IOCO would end.
The explanation offered by the proponents of the law is that the Attorney General is a member of government.
So,
and a member of the executive, that you cannot reasonably expect somebody who is a member of the executive to prosecute another member of the executive. So the Attorney General goes to cabinet meetings, and this same Attorney General is supposed to prosecute another cabinet member or another minister in the government that this Attorney General serves. The proponents of the law say this is practically impossible, and in times past it hasn't served us well. Therefore, create an independent office and clothe the person with all the powers and authority to be able to take decisions independent of the Attorney General or any political control or influence. It's a great idea.
Well, you see, I mean, this argument has already been made over and over again. And people look at the Attorney General, I think that bit of it in the Constitution, and they were saying that we should decouple the two. Article 88, we should decouple the two. And we've not done that, and we have proceeded to kind of pass...
Because it's an entrenched provision in the Constitution, it will require a referendum.
So what if... No, see, let's look at it this way. So what if the next moment somebody takes the matter to court, the Supreme Court, for the court to...
Yeah, so let it go to court. Let's see whether the Supreme Court...
Should we wait for all these processes to be done before we prosecute people who have been corrupt?
Do you see this going to the Supreme Court?
Of course, for me, I think that... And a lot of people have said...
But both sides of parliament supported this bill anyway.
It doesn't change anything. If it's unconstitutional, it is unconstitutional.
But nobody has declared it unconstitutional.
No, I'm just saying...
It is only the Supreme Court which can so declare.
So I'm just saying that. So it doesn't matter whether the two sides of the House agree to it or not. If it's unconstitutional, I mean, it's the Supreme Court that will pronounce it. So it doesn't matter who and who came together to...
I raised that to just make the point that, well, whilst you may disagree, both sides of the House, who are legislators, the people we send there to make laws, saw the wisdom in this and they've passed it into law.
Well, despite my cynicism about it, I would say at least, I mean, one should be charitable enough to give it a chance to see whether it will work. However, pending when I'm proved wrong, I think that the worst suspicions would tend to happen that the office of the special prosecutor will go after corruption cases in previous administrations as different from evolving ones in the current administration. And that is largely because of the political class themselves and how we tend to politicize
But
issues.
even if that were to happen, is there a problem with that?
As long as the effects, as long as the work of the special prosecutor can have effects on the electoral fortunes of an incumbent government and the opposition, it will be used as a political weapon. Because for the politicians, the far overriding first priority is to win the next election. That comes before anything else.
If the previous government succeeded, were successful at prosecuting people of the Kufuor government for corruption, and this government successfully prosecutes people for corruption in the previous government, doesn't that answer it? Doesn't that solve our problem? That means the system is working. That means the system is working. That if you engage in corrupt activity today, and your party is in power, even if you don't get prosecuted whilst your party is in power, when another party comes to power, you will get prosecuted.
That's what we should. That's what we should use.
It ups the stakes for the incumbent government not to lose the next election.
No, but Malik,
which is practically not possible. At least in our case since '92, we have proven.
Maybe because the stakes have not become high enough.
No, we have proven that the Ghanaian people have proven that they will hold people accountable for their stewardship. And they have done that multiple times. They did it in 2000, 2008, 2016.
But Malik, let me play the devil's advocate. Let me ask you a question. Do you honestly believe that the special prosecutor can deal with people incumbent?
I'm the one asking the questions.
Because for me, I think that we have a problem. We all know we have a problem. People have been corrupt. Let's deal with them. I don't care which vehicle we are going to use. But as far as I'm concerned,
so it is
we shouldn't
in the government's wisdom.
Wait for the next
in the government's wisdom, in Parliament's wisdom, this vehicle can't do their job. You don't agree?
Well, it can do their job, but at what cost? I mean, we are duplicating effort.
You get caught up in the political quagmire because look, when now it's political under the Akufo-Addo administration, and devotes all its attention to the Mama administration. About 40% of Ghana's electorate are committed NDC supporters. I mean, Ghana is basically 40-40-20.
We saw a certain Martin Amidu who was determined to prosecute people regardless of whether they were in his party or where they were, and whether prosecuted people whether they were connected to people in his party or not. So if you have someone as strong as a Martin Amidu in that office, you think they can do their work?
Yeah, but you see, what was the fallout what Martin Amidu has done? You and I and Richard, who are in the 20% of the 100, that's what I would call the relatively neutral people, accept and appreciate what Martin Amidu has done. But the fact is that the majority of the Ghanaian population, the Ghanaian electorate, are sharply divided over Martin Amidu and what he did. We all, you'll accept that.
So you don't have too much hope with this.
And in that case, and for them, what he really achieved or what he was saying now, it doesn't really matter. It's all just broken down political. It's all just down the political. My cynicism about the special political office is not based on the idea of the office being a bad one, but whether it is workable in such a highly politicized environment as Ghana.
The government says it will.
Well, I think we have to wish them all the best. For if you are going to deal with corruption,
we have to wish them all the best.
Yes.
I think let's move on to land guards. Of course, Toma is not a very strong man. I doubt that Toma will have anything to do with land guards. We don't have too much time left. Let me start with Richard. You are bulky and you are Ghana. You have land. Do you have land guards protecting your land?
You saying he's a land guard?
well, I think the menace of land guards, it didn't start today.
Do you have land guards protecting your family land?
I don't have lands.
You don't have, your family doesn't have land?
No,
your family doesn't have land?
I don't have land. I don't have land. I can't speak for the rest of my family members.
Toma, do you know anybody who is suffering from land guards?
I've heard of a couple of people, but I've not really delved into the situation. But for what I've heard, I don't think it's a very good. I'm against anything that is not part of the rule of law, anything that's not part of due process.
Toma, it's been an honor having you on the show today. Toma is a consulting editor at Economy Times. I was with you on the Super Morning Show at Octagon.
Yes.
It was a beautiful place to be.
Oh, yes.
And of course, Richard Ni Abe, he changes his name. He has too many names. Richard Ni Abe, Anekwi, Abekwi, all manner of names. He is with the Business and Financial Times. It's been great talking to you guys. I've been sitting in for Gifty and Apia. My name is Malik Abazda. God willing, next week, Gifty, a pretty face Gifty and Apia, will be here hosting Editors Forum. Until then, keep safe.